Thank you, everyone, for being here today. You are all here because Mom showed her affection for you in small but plentiful ways. And thank you for returning that affection by helping her with things that she was not physically able to do in her later years. Everyone here helped her in some way, but today just a few that come immediately to mind. I speak for the family when I say we are forever grateful for the help and kindness provided by Ashley Cunningham, Dr. Gary Fitzgerald, Mike Forsythe, Eileen Mann, the Newcomers Club, Rose Patterson, the Sisters of Providence, Sue Watson, nurse practitioner Ken Zinkovich, and the clergy and laity of St. Benedict's. I apologize because I know I left some people out, but know that Mom continuously and consistently expressed her gratitude for everything you did for her. Barbara Jane Frizz Bernadette Wilson, also known as Mom, Lady, Grandma, and Grandlady, was born a mile from here at St. Anthony's Hospital on the Ides of March 1931. She grew up mostly in Terre Haute, Crawfordsville, and Montgomery County. During the summer, her father, Fabian, ran the Shades Resort that her grandfather founded near Wakefield, and which later became Shades State Park. She started working in the Boxball Alley, don't ask me what that is, but the Boxball Alley at age 7. Every fall, Grandpa would have to find another job to support the family during the Depression. That meant Mom went to a new school almost every year in various places like Chicago, Toledo, and once to Orlando to help Uncle Wilfred at his restaurant. She changed schools 3 times in 3rd grade, which would have led me to truancy. But she approached her schoolwork the same way she did with everything, with a quiet industriousness. While watching Mom check off task after task on her infinite to-do list, beautiful Aunt Catherine asked me, how can anybody compete with that? I regret that I often took Mom's hard work and generosity for granted, but my wife, Lorelle, reminded me, you were given the golden ticket when it comes to mothers. You won the lottery. Mom enjoyed her career, but she picked pharmacy by the process of elimination. She told me that the only other careers available to women in the 1940s were nursing, teaching, and administrative work. She said being a secretary was out of the question because the only reason she passed typing in high school was because she got A's in everything else, and her typing teacher gave her the benefit of the doubt. Being one of the few women in a major dominated by men, she surely never lacked for dating opportunities, but she was focused on college and making the dean's list. When a tall, handsome, and persistent forestry major repeatedly asked her out, she didn't say yes until her roommates, Beverly and Dana, said, if you turn down that sweet Johnny Wilson again, we're gonna get you. While Mom liked people, she was shy, and Dad was an extrovert like her father, who never met a stranger. Beautiful Aunt Catherine said she had never seen 2 people who were more in love. They married while still at Purdue. After he was drafted, she spent time with him at Fort Lewis, but flew back to Crawfordsville after her mother passed away. People saw her walking around pregnant with no husband in sight, and they confused her with her as-yet unmarried sister Catherine. She deliberately didn't correct her, much to beautiful Aunt Catherine's annoyance and Mom's amusement. After the Army, Dad got a job in Mississippi. He didn't tell her about the 2 job offers in Washington State, which Mom fell in love with when they were in Tacoma. He said that people at the company in Mississippi were friendlier, and in Washington, quote, you could starve staring at all the pretty scenery. One thing Mom and Dad had in common was that they both loved children. lasted 5. Throughout Mom's life, she has been tempered by tragedy. She lost her sister Libby, the biggest personality in her family, and the one she called the best of us, when she died in 1949 in a car accident at the age of 15. 5 years later, she lost her mother. In 1964, Dad was coming home from Texas when he died in an accident driving through Louisiana. When I try to explain to people how amazing Mom is, I say she was 33 years old when she was widowed, and she had a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. To paraphrase Harry Truman after FDR died, she must have felt like the sun, the stars, and all the planets just fell on her. After he died, Mom said Dad came to her in a dream and said, "I'm sorry." But she never felt sorry for herself. She didn't have the time. The state of Mississippi threatened to take away her children because they didn't think she could support 5 children by herself. Mom obtained a Mississippi pharmacy license and got a job at a local drugstore because the store owner's wife ordered her to hire her. She couldn't have made much more than the babysitter she paid. I only learned a few years ago that the state had threatened to put us in foster care. My reaction was, "And you didn't let him? Are you crazy?" A neighbor studying for a realtor's license helped her find someone to take over the mortgage payments on the house. She got 0 equity out of that house. She moved us back to Terre Haute in St. Anne's Parish, where her dad, Aunt Blanche, Uncle Leo, and Uncle Paul lived, and started over from scratch. She worked for Jane Reba and Claire Newcomb at their family drugstore at 7th and Lafayette for 10 years, and also worked extra shifts at Oakland Drugstore. Mom said to Amy last month, "People thought I should have my own drugstore. I was offered Oakland's drugstore. People also said I should go to medical school, but I had to get these kids raised." I asked her how she became so organized and disciplined, and she said, "Parochial school, the Academy of Immaculate Conception in Oldenburg, Purdue, and motherhood." Believe it or not, she got audited by the IRS and had to document that she had spent the Social Security survivor's benefits on child care expenses. She pulled out a stack of bound letters. I've seen these things, they're amazing, in which she had methodically written down in her beautiful Palmer method handwriting every dime, nickel, and penny she had spent in the last 5 years. The auditor told her, "Put them away," because she was a mother too, and she knew the cost of raising children. In 1974, she went to Hooks, which proudly proclaimed, "You can trust the man in green," with no mention of the woman in green. The pharmacists at Hooks were also the store managers, and the people she hired thrived under her firm but gentle maternal guidance. She ran the store like a family. But the family, she ran that like a traveling circus. She drove all 6 of us and all 4 of the Conrads in her Pontiac Catalina station wagon to California to see NCC and the Bourbons. On another road trip, we went to New Orleans, San Antonio, Juarez, Albuquerque, and finally to Colorado Springs, where Uncle Denny was teaching at the Air Force Academy. Later, we went to Massachusetts after Uncle Denny was transferred there. When Laurel and I moved to her native New England, Laurel had trouble showing me any tourist sites I hadn't already seen, thanks to the one that beautiful Aunt Catherine called the aggressive tourist. Later in life, Mom dragged her sisters and brothers-in-law all over the world, visiting over 50 countries with counting on 6 continents. Once, while visiting Amy, when she and Art were in the Peace Corps, she broke her ankle hiking to a waterfall in Togo. 6 villagers that Amy recruited carried her down the mountain on their shoulders. Her ankle was splinted at a local clinic, but the clinic had no painkillers. Her favorite adopted son and assistant manager, Rashmi Patel, told Mom he was going to leave Terre Haute. Indiana's licensing statutes, unlike neighboring states, kept Rashmi's wife, Sangeeta, from practicing pharmacy because she got a degree overseas. Mom contacted her state representative, her state senator, and her connection at the state licensing board. The message went up the political food chain, and soon Sangeeta received a call from U.S. Senator Richard Lugar saying he was going to go to bat for her to get the licensing board to accept decrees obtained abroad. I asked her why she never had a midlife crisis, and she said, "I was too busy." When she retired from CBS and Rashmi replaced her as manager at 12 points, she didn't really retire. She kept working part-time for Rashmi at CBS. When St. Anne's Church was closed, Sister Connie and the Sisters of Providence turned their ministry into the first free health care clinic in Indiana. It made such an impact on the health outcomes of the unemployed and working poor, the state adopted it and expanded it to other cities. Sister Connie was emphatic that I tell you how grateful the sisters were that Mom helped start the pharmacy. During their 17 years there, Mom mentored 127 pharmacy students. I counted those too. She had pictures all. From Butler and Purdue, doing 6-week-long clinical rotations. Not only did she give them valuable experience counseling patients in a nonprofit organization, she also opened her door and offered them a place to stay. She had a wall covered with photos of them, and she adored them as if they were her own children. Mom loved people in general. When I apologized for booking a flight for her that had a 3-hour layover, she said, "That's okay. I'll just read a book or watch TV." She found something to like in everyone. People I found difficult, she found interesting or amusing. Sometimes she just saw them as someone who could use her help. There are endless anecdotes of Mom's generosity, but this is the one I usually use to illustrate who Mom is. Now, this makes me sound like a bad son, but every Mother's Day, she would drive to Kansas City to see me instead of the other way around. While at a gas station outside St. Louis, a nice young man in his 50s helped her wash her windshield. He was driving from Maine all the way to the West Coast, and Mom asked if he needed a place to stay. I was a little surprised when they both showed up at my door, but I rolled with it because that was classic Mom. Her Midwestern upbringing, her faith, and her instincts called her to help the wayfaring stranger. The next day I was at work, I phoned home several times just to make sure she wasn't tied up in that kind of thing. And she said, "He's helping me take down your curtains so I can wash them." She lived her faith, and she always had an open door. It took me a long time to realize how rare that was. Our friends practically lived at her house, and she always kept the cookie jar full. Her bucket list in life was straight out of today's Gospel of Matthew. "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was ill, and you took care of me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." She did all of those things. You know the story of St. Martin? He cut his cloak in two with his sword and gave half to a beggar in rags. When my cousin Shelley was 7, she was hit by a car trying to cross Wabash Avenue. After she was discharged from the hospital, Mom waited in the station wagon with Shelley while Aunt Cece paid the bill. When Aunt Cece came out, Shelley was wrapped in Mom's blouse. Aunt Cece asked what was going on, and Mom said Shelley was cold. Sensing Aunt Cece's consternation and her apparent lack of modesty and complete lack of vanity, Mom reassured her, saying, "We'll take it backwards." How many of us here today can say that we followed the example of St. Martin and literally gave someone the shirt off our backs? Mom had a keen sense of fairness. Her refusal to anoint a favorite child held up under the fiercest negotiation. We all suspected it was Scott, because he is her dad incarnate, but she invoked the Fifth Amendment. She still managed to make each one of us feel special. She said the part of being a parent she enjoyed the most was, quote, the different personalities of the kids and watching them do things. Even the times I had to bail the boys out of jail. I was the semi-feral, undomesticated brat of the family. Despite that, she had a completely unjustified faith that I would eventually turn the ship around. The example she set of her exemplary life was our North Star. You couldn't possibly get there, but once you recognized she was the one constant in the swirling heavens, all you had to do was follow her, and you would find your way. Mom gave us money for our wedding, mainly because a wedding is a great excuse for a family reunion. Laurel's friend Katja hosted a reception for us the day after the wedding in Amherst, which is the hippie capital of Massachusetts. She told Laurel, "Matt's mom has a white aura." I don't think she was talking about the halo of white hair. I think she was talking about the serenity and grace that radiated from Mom. We all sensed it. Her greatest joy in life was being surrounded by the community of family and friends she held together with her life. She was the calm in the middle of the storm, her face beaming with a beatific moment's smile. For her work at St. Anne's, she was proclaimed a distinguished Hoosier by the governor at the urging of Sister Lawrence Ann. In March, she was recognized as a remarkable woman by the local NBC affiliate WTWO for being in the vanguard of women in pharmacy and mentoring those who follow her. True to her nature, she donated a $1,000 prize to CODA, the Council on Domestic Abuse, which is run by one of the other nominees, the remarkable Emily Murray, because she thought Emily deserved the award. It was such a mom thing to do, so humble, so generous. St. Teresa of Calcutta said, "We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love." Several of you here today were recipients of her prolific greeting card campaigns. She remembered birthdays, wedding anniversaries, and graduations, and she even sent me cards she would sign with my cat's name, because she knew my cat would want to send me a birthday card if she only could. Although she knew full well that the cat favored Laurel, she addressed it to me because she thought it would be funny if Laurel got a little jealous. Laurel's mother and sister were on us, and at Thanksgiving, they asked why she started signing her cards Rainbow Barbie. They were too polite to say it, but they probably thought she had lost her marbles. I explained, Rainbow Barbie is the name given to her by her 3-year-old great-granddaughter. She loved that name. She thought it was hilarious. My friends always said she was a cool mom, and she had graduated to be the cool great-grandma. I used to have packages sent to my work address, and my coworkers were amazed and amused that I was still getting Easter baskets from my mommy in my mid-30s, despite my claims that I was an adult. While staying with her during the pandemic, I got to see Easter basket assembly line in person. It was a massive logistics operation that only a seasoned mother of 5, grandmother of 9, and great-grandmother of 3 could pull off. The postage for 35 baskets cost way more than the but nestled in the cellophane grass, the baskets were filled with love. My favorite holy day is All Saints' Day. I have a book with short biographies of the saints that makes great casual reading. On a recent All Saints' Day, my pastor said something subtle but profound. He said, "Today is the day we honor the saints recognized by the church." Recognized by the church. That blew me away because it never occurred to me until then that God sent saints to minister to us, the vanished children of Eve, and the church couldn't possibly find and formally celebrate them all. He went on to explain that we are blessed with people who are moved by the Holy Spirit to bring compassion, mercy, and love into our lives. Mom would scoff at any implication that you sometimes think, let's get that straight. She was far too humble, and she probably thought her mischievous sense of humor and her bootleg wine-making operation in her basement disqualified her from the living. Barbara F. Wilson honored God by the life she led. She took Jesus at his word when he said, "My commandment is this, love each other as I have loved you." Mom did a great many things in her long and sometimes bittersweet, but beatific, beautiful life. She did a lot of small things, everyday things, and she did them with great love. To be in her embrace was to exist in a state of grace. Now that our earthly pilgrimage is done, we can honor Barbara, Jane, Bernadette, Fritz Wilson by the life we live, and love each other as she loved us. Thank you.